the 21st century, an era defined by globalization, technological marvels, and the relentless march of progress. Yet, beneath this veneer of interconnectedness, a darker reality simmers. From the heart of Europe to the shores of the Western Pacific, geopolitical fault lines crackle with tension, threatening to erupt into open conflict. The world watches, holding its breath, as age-old grievances and modern ambitions collide. The names echo in the headlines, each a shorthand for complex histories and intractable disputes. Serbia-Kosovo, China-Taiwan, Russia-Ukraine. These are not isolated incidents, mere blips on the radar of international affairs. Instead, they represent a worrying trend: the resurgence of geopolitical rivalry, the fragility of peace, and the ever-present potential for conflict in our interconnected world. In this exploration of these simmering conflicts, we embark on a journey to unravel the intricate web of history, nationalism, and power dynamics that fuel these disputes. Our goal: to move beyond the headlines, to dissect the narratives, and to understand the stakes involved for all parties. It's a messy business, this dance of nations, but someone's got to make sense of it. At first glance, the conflicts in Serbia-Kosovo, China-Taiwan, and Russia-Ukraine might appear as disparate entities, separated by geography, culture, and historical context. Yet a closer examination reveals striking parallels, common threads that weave a tapestry of shared grievances, historical wounds, and the enduring struggle for self-determination. Each conflict is rooted in claims of territorial integrity, historical injustices, and the complex interplay of national identity and political ambition. In each case, we witness the resurgence of nationalism, the manipulation of history, and the dangerous allure of irredentism, the desire to reclaim lost territories and reunite imagined communities. But are these conflicts merely different verses of the same song, destined to repeat the mistakes of the past? Or are there crucial differences, nuances that set them apart and offer a glimmer of hope for peaceful resolution? To answer these questions, we must delve deeper, exploring the unique historical context, the motivations of the key actors, and the intricate geopolitical tapestry surrounding each conflict. After all, the devil, as they say, is in the details. In an increasingly interconnected world, the ramifications of these conflicts extend far beyond the borders of the nations involved. The stakes are high, not only for the people directly affected by the violence and uncertainty, but also for the international community as a whole. These conflicts challenge the post-Cold War order, testing the limits of international law and raising profound questions about the future of global security. The potential for escalation is a constant threat, a powder keg waiting for a spark. The involvement of major powers, each with its own strategic interests and alliances, adds another layer of complexity to an already volatile situation. The specter of miscalculation, of unintended consequences, looms large. Understanding these conflicts, then, is not merely an academic exercise. It is a matter of vital importance, a necessary step towards mitigating the risk of wider conflict, promoting dialogue, and ultimately building a more peaceful and stable world. So, buckle up. This is going to be a bumpy ride. The Balkans, a region steeped in history, riddled with ancient grudges and simmering tensions. To understand Serbia and Kosovo, one must dive into their shared past of clashing empires and intertwined ethnicities. The Balkan Peninsula, a crossroads of East and West, has a tumultuous history marked by nationalism and religious fervor. Serbia, with its proud history, sees Kosovo as the cradle of its civilization. Kosovo, for Serbs, is like their Jerusalem but with more conflict. The complex Serbia-Kosovo relationship continues to be defined by history's enduring legacy. Section 2. The breakup from Yugoslavia to independent Kosovo. The Balkan cauldron begins to bubble over once again. Yugoslavia, held together by Tito, unravels after his death. Nationalism rears its head and the republics decide to go their separate ways. Kosovo, with its Albanian population and ties to Serbia, becomes a focal point. Serbia revokes Kosovo's autonomy in 1989, sparking outrage. The situation escalates, leading to the brutal Kosovo War. NATO intervenes, halting the violence but leaving a bitter taste for Serbs. Kosovo is placed under UN administration, but tensions remain. In 2008, Kosovo declares independence, celebrated by Albanians, rejected by Serbia. The international community is divided, with some recognizing Kosovo, others siding with Serbia. The breakup is messy, like an acrimonious divorce with the international community mediating Kosovo's uncertain future. Grappling with the legacy of this messy divorce, Kosovo exists in a state of frozen conflict. Serbia remains resolute in its refusal to recognize Kosovo's independence. Meanwhile, Kosovo is busy building its own institutions. Tensions remain high, and the potential for renewed conflict is never far. The presence of international peacekeeping forces serves as a constant reminder of the fragility of the peace. The European Union has been engaged in a series of negotiations. The saga continues, a complex dance of diplomacy and history. The future of Serbia and Kosovo remains uncertain. Section 1. Shifting Sands, the Rise of China and a Divided Legacy. Now let's shift our gaze eastward to a region grappling with its own set of complex historical narratives and geopolitical fault lines, the Taiwan Strait. Here, the rising superpower that is China locks horns with a small island democracy, each clinging fiercely to its own version of history and its vision for the future. The story of China and Taiwan is, at its core, a tale of unfinished business, a legacy of civil war and the enduring struggle for legitimacy. It's a story that begins as many good, and by good I mean utterly messy stories do, with revolution. The Chinese Communist Party, led by the ever so slightly ambitious Mao Zedong, emerges victorious in 1949, sending the defeated nationalist government fleeing to the island of Taiwan. Think of it as a dramatic changing of the guard, with the communists moving into the main house and the nationalists setting up shop in the guest cottage, vowing to one day reclaim what they believe to be rightfully theirs. Thus began the Two Chinas era, a delicate dance of Cold War politics with both sides claiming to represent the one true China. Meanwhile, Taiwan, once a sleepy backwater, was busy reinventing itself. It underwent a remarkable economic transformation, evolving from an authoritarian state into a vibrant democracy with a free press, a robust economy, and a distinct Taiwanese identity that, while rooted in Chinese culture, increasingly diverged from the mainland's communist ideology. And so the stage was set for a geopolitical showdown, a clash of ideologies and ambitions, with the Taiwan Strait serving as the watery curtain between them. Two Chinas, one strait, the making of a frozen conflict. The one China policy became the status quo. Beneath this diplomatic illusion, tensions simmered. Beijing views Taiwan as a renegade province. Taiwan clings to its autonomy and democracy. This geopolitical game of chicken has grown more precarious. China, fueled by nationalism, asserts its claims over Taiwan. Taiwan faces the daunting task of defending its autonomy. Section 3. A Shadow over the Pacific. Military might and economic coercion. China, never one to shy away from a good old-fashioned show of force, has been busy flexing its military muscle in the region. It has ramped up military exercises, flown fighter jets across the median line of the Taiwan Strait. Think of it as the geopolitical equivalent of drawing a line in the sand, only with supersonic jets, and generally made it clear that it's not afraid to use its considerable military might to achieve its objectives. But China's approach to Taiwan goes beyond mere military posturing. It has also become adept at wielding economic coercion, using its vast market power to punish any country that dares to challenge its stance on Taiwan. Think of it as the schoolyard bully who threatens to hold his breath until everyone agrees that he's the coolest kid in class. This multifaceted strategy has put considerable pressure on Taiwan and its allies, particularly the United States. Washington, bound by the Taiwan Relations Act to provide Taiwan with the means to defend itself, has found itself walking a diplomatic tightrope, trying to support Taiwan without provoking a full-blown conflict with China. It's a delicate dance, to be sure, fraught with risk and uncertainty. One wrong step, one miscalculation, and the whole thing could go up in flames. And nobody wants to see that happen, except perhaps for the arms manufacturers, who are probably already drawing up blueprints for the latest and greatest in military hardware. Section 4. The American Dilemma. Walking a tightrope in the Taiwan Strait. The United States, for all its talk of freedom and democracy, finds itself in a rather awkward position. On the one hand, it has a moral obligation to support a fellow democracy facing down a much larger, more authoritarian neighbor. On the other hand, it doesn't want to risk a catastrophic war with a nuclear-armed superpower over an island that, let's face it, most Americans would struggle to find on a map. It's a classic case of realpolitik, where strategic interests often trump idealistic principles. Washington's policy of strategic ambiguity, refusing to state explicitly whether it would intervene militarily to defend Taiwan, is a testament to this delicate balancing act. This ambiguity, while frustrating for both Taipei and Beijing, has arguably served to maintain peace, albeit a fragile one, for decades. But as China grows more powerful and more assertive, the question of whether this policy can hold remains an open and increasingly urgent one. So, there you have it. The China-Taiwan conflict, a tangled web of history, ideology, and geopolitics, all playing out on a global stage with the highest of stakes. It's a situation that demands careful consideration, a nuanced understanding of the historical context, and, perhaps most importantly, a healthy dose of skepticism towards anyone who claims to have all the answers. Because in this game of geopolitical chess, the only certainty is uncertainty itself. Ukraine, a nation caught in a geopolitical tug-of-war between Russia and the West, has a history intertwined with its larger neighbor. For centuries, Ukraine's fertile lands and strategic location have made it a coveted prize. Russia views Ukraine as a wayward sibling, sharing roots in the Eastern Slavic civilization. Ukraine, with its distinct identity, seeks a future free from the Kremlin's shadow. In 2014, Russia annexed Crimea following Ukraine's Maidan revolution. This move, justified by Moscow to protect ethnic Russians, violated international law. The annexation sparked a conflict in eastern Ukraine between government forces and Russian-backed separatists. The world watched as the specter of war returned to Europe. Russia's actions are driven by a narrative of historical grievances and a desire to reassert dominance. For Putin, the collapse of the Soviet Union was a geopolitical catastrophe. Ukraine is seen as an integral part of Russia's historical heartland. The West views Russia's actions as dangerous revisionism, leading to a geopolitical standoff. The international community responded to Russia's aggression with condemnation, sanctions, and military support for Ukraine. NATO bolstered its presence in Eastern Europe, while China provided Russia with diplomatic cover. The conflict has exposed fault lines within the international community. The world is now divided along a fluid axis of power and influence. The conflicts in Serbia, Kosovo, China, Taiwan, and Russia, Ukraine are battlegrounds in a larger struggle for global dominance. Russia uses the Ukraine conflict to demonstrate its willingness to use military force. China observes and learns from the West's response. The stakes have never been higher in this geopolitical chess match. The international response to these conflicts is a patchwork of condemnation, sanctions, and cautious support. The West presents a united front against Russian aggression, but cracks in unity exist. China provides Russia with diplomatic cover, viewing the West's response as hypocritical. The global South remains largely on the sidelines, wary of taking sides. The economic fallout from these conflicts is a prime example of global interconnectedness. Sanctions on Russia have disrupted supply chains and caused energy prices to skyrocket. The conflict in Ukraine has exposed the fragility of global supply chains for essential commodities. The economic fallout is a global phenomenon, exacerbating existing inequalities. The conflict in Ukraine has breathed new life into NATO and accelerated global power shifts. Russia and China have deepened their cooperation, challenging the US-led world order. The human cost is immense, with millions displaced and lives upended. The world has entered a new era of heightened geopolitical competition and uncertainty. Behind the headlines lie the human stories of those caught in these conflicts. In Kosovo, a Serbian farmer remembers a time of coexistence now shattered by division. In Taiwan, a young entrepreneur navigates the complexities of doing business under China's shadow. In Ukraine, a mother shelters her children from the daily realities of war. Many individuals and communities live in the shadow of superpowers, their fates intertwined with distant decisions. Kosovars yearn for recognition amidst Serbia's historical claims and the West's cautious approach. Taiwanese balance asserting autonomy with avoiding provocation from China. Ukrainians pay the highest price for Russia's ambitions and the West's reluctance to engage directly. History, that mischievous storyteller, leaves its mark on the present. Conflicts are rooted in centuries of shared history and past grievances. But amidst history's weight, there are glimmers of hope for dialogue and cooperation. In the Balkans, efforts bridge divides and promote reconciliation. In the Taiwan Strait, voices call for restraint and peaceful resolution. In Ukraine, resilience and global support fuel the spirit to rebuild. The path to peace is rarely straight or easy, but hope persists, believing in a better future. So, there you have it. A whirlwind tour of some of the most volatile hotspots on our increasingly crowded, interconnected planet. We've delved into the messy history of these conflicts and examined the global implications. The conflicts in Serbia-Kosovo, China-Taiwan, and Russia-Ukraine are not isolated incidents. There are no easy answers, no magic formulas for resolving these deeply entrenched conflicts. But amidst this uncertainty, there are glimmers of hope. The interconnectedness that makes these conflicts dangerous also creates opportunities for cooperation. The future is not predetermined. It is ours to shape, if we have the courage, wisdom, and compassion to do so.